Joining us now to discuss what is apparently an intent on the part of the Dems to subvert and Trump's Supreme Court announcement upcoming is Randy Evans, former chairman of the Republican National Lawyers Association, and Carrie Severino, chief counsel and policy director for Judicial Crisis Network, a former Supreme Court clerk for Justice Clarence Thomas. Great to have you both with us. And Terry, let me begin with you. Have you divined who the president will be announcing tonight?
Well, that's the president's prerogative to make that announcement, but I will say this is going to be someone who is incredibly well qualified and someone who is fit to carry on the legacy of Justice Scalia. That's the idea of this list in the first place, which shows us such a talented group of individuals. There's such a deep bench of judges who are in that mold and understand it's about the text of the law, it's about the text and the original understanding of the Constitution, not your personal politics. Let's get back to judges who are just faithfully interpreting the law.
Carrie, in that case, if you don't want to share with us what you have divined, tell us at least this: who do you prefer?
You know, I don't want to make a vote one way or the other. We're happy to support any of these great nominees.
I got it, Carrie. I know I'll have no such trouble whatsoever with Randy. Randy, your thoughts on the now two choices apparently before the president, one of the two to be put up for Senator Justice Scalia's seat.
Well, I'll just say this. I think Judge Gorsuch clearly is probably the favorite because everybody's so afraid of the Souter effect. If you remember, John Sununu picked Justice Souter, who had no track record, no printed opinions. Both of these gentlemen have a lot of track record, but I think Judge Gorsuch has a whole lot more in terms of the kinds of issues that are important to the president. Now, in fairness, Judge Hardiman does have as a colleague President Trump's sister, and he's been extremely strong on the Second Amendment. I think that means that he's in the running as well. I'd have to say that in terms of comfort level, given the number of opinions he's written, given his track record, his publications, I think Judge Gorsuch is probably the favorite.
All right, let's talk about the process forward, because irrespective of who the president puts forward, the confirmation process is going to be, in all likelihood, a historic one in which the Senate may be called upon to change their rules and move to the so-called nuclear option, as did Senator Harry Reid when he was majority leader some 5 years ago. Carrie, what's it going to take to get either one of these men through the confirmation process and to have a seat on this court?
Well, either of those justices is so well qualified, so clearly fit for the job that I think you'd absolutely have.
I think this is where I say so stipulated. How do we get them to the point that they get a seat on the...
I was going to say that they absolutely will have the 51 votes needed for confirmation. Now, the question is getting past that filibuster, but I do think it's a harder thing for a senator to filibuster someone. Look at Alito's confirmation. He didn't get 60 votes to confirm, but he did get over 70 votes to move on to that up or down vote. I think it's going to be so clear that there's so many senators up for re-election in 2018 in red states that went for Trump. They're going to have to pick between lining themselves up with obstruction for 4 more years or actually letting this come to a vote.
They don't seem to be having any trouble whatsoever, Randy, being obstructionists right now across the board with the president's choices to be Attorney General, to be the head of Health and Human Services. I mean, this is an obstructionist Democratic Party, if you can call it a party. It's operating more like a gang. Your thoughts?
I think the nuclear option is inevitable. I really do. I think that they'll have enough to keep either side from getting to 60 votes. I think they'll have enough votes to block cloture on the filibuster, and the net effect is that Mitch McConnell will have to invoke the nuclear option. At that moment, however, whether or not they in fact vote to change the rules to go nuclear will be a big deal, because I think there are many Senate Democrats who say this nominee is not worth giving up the filibuster rule on future Supreme Court nominations. They're willing to have a Scalia replace a Scalia. They're not willing to give up filibuster for that next presidential nominee to the U.S. Supreme Court. And as a result, I think in the end, they'll blink, they'll back down, but I think the nuclear option will have to be put on the table first.
Yeah, and the majority leader has made it clear he's extremely reluctant. Why? This is a president who deserves his choices. Nothing could be, I shouldn't say nothing, but almost nothing could be more critical in President Trump's administration and in his tenure than to seat these justices on the Supreme Court.
Well, you have a party that's an abstention. They don't get it. They don't understand what's happened. They abandoned and walked out on the inauguration. They don't show up for committee meetings. They don't show up for votes on the floor of the Senate.
No, but I'm talking about what is the reluctance on the part of Mitch McConnell? Carrie, any thoughts?
Well, there are a lot of institutionalists who've been there a long time who feel like their filibuster is part of the Senate. I understand why he doesn't want to do it, but look, once Harry Reid blew up the filibuster, it effectively is hanging on by a thread of 51 votes. We know the Democrats would get rid of the filibuster if the Republicans ever used it against their nominee. So in order to have both parties playing by the same rules, I'm afraid it's eventually going to have to go. Is it this time, or I think it's very possible the Democrats don't decide to filibuster all the way because they don't want the nuclear option used. Fine, but I think practically speaking, it's dead on arrival.
Yeah, it is. To me, it's astounding because it's almost as if the establishment Republicans, particularly in the leadership of both houses, and I'll end it with this, Randy, if I may, they don't understand the Democrats, the left. They're on, without question, they're on war footing. They are carrying the battle to the Republicans every day, and everyone's trying to smile and to be somewhat, if you will, polite. But this is a scorched earth policy, as they declared, and certainly Senator Schumer is living up to what he promised.
There has to be a point where you recognize this is political guerrilla warfare, and you have to treat it like such, which means that you don't stand in lines, you don't play by Queen's Marbury rules, you actually take the fight to them. And I think President Trump's been doing that. I think it's now up to Senator McConnell and Speaker Ryan to do the same in the Congress.
All right. Randy, thanks so much. Carrie, thank you. And I hope that you both get your way with whichever justice the President announces here tonight, coming up in about 48 minutes.